That's nice. Back it up, son. I have to lean it back. Chapter 11. Get it from me, B. Pull it over there.
Chapter 11, book 5.
Chapter 11. Just drag it, son. Watch it, Kafir.
Hey. Here was the book 11 chapter. You wait for that?
No, it was book 11. Chapter.
Book 11, chapter 5,
Section 2.
section 2.
Shabbat Shalom. It's so great to see you all this fine Shabbat. Greetings to everyone. I want to acknowledge my brother and sister in the back joining us for the first time. Y'all wanna stand up and introduce yourself back there? Bruh, rap. You wanna stand back and introduce yourself? Good to meet you, bro.
No.
Okay, good to meet you too, brother. Brother Nehemiah invited them out, so we want to make sure we show them plenty of love. After the lesson, it's their first time joining us, and also Brother Maccabees brought his cousin. You want to introduce yourself, bro?
Hello, my name is Sean.
John joining us for the first time. I want to say welcome to all of y'all. Feel welcome to come anytime. The way we normally conduct is, so far we do the prayer to pray in. We had the children's lesson. Today was the first week for the Hebrew starting at 1, so we're going to do it every week starting at 1 for everybody that's interested. If you want to come out next week and we can review anything that we went over today. If y'all need to, if you got any questions, feel free to let me know. It's brother Maccabees and brother Travis seem to nail it down pretty easy today. Quab already, he's sandbagging like he don't know the root, but he already know. If you got y'all can ask them questions too, So now we're gonna go into the lesson. Just so happened to be on me today. So like what we had a conversation about a couple weeks ago about starting to deal with some of these different doctrines that that's out here and put them on the table so that we can come be on one accord as it pertains to some of these things. So the thing that we dealt with last night and that I'm gonna bring out today is about the gentiles of the New Testament being Israelites. Okay. So let's start in Acts, the 2nd chapter. Acts, the 2nd chapter. We're gonna hit Acts a few times, so for a brief moment, kind of hold your finger or your bookmark or whatever in Acts, the 2nd chapter. Starting at verse 1.
Acts chapter 2 and verse 1. And when the day of Pentecost was fully come.
When what?
The day of Pentecost was fully come. They were all with one accord in one place.
They were all in one place. Who knows what that one place was? Jerusalem, right? Who knows why they were in that one place and on one accord? First of all, Are we all familiar with what Pentecost is? Okay. Say again, brother. Feast of Weeks, exactly. The Feast of Weeks. So let's go to Deuteronomy chapter 16 and verse 16. Okay. Well, the Feast of Weeks, the Feast of Weeks is it's a feast when we gathered in the harvest, right? From the one that was the harvest from what was became ripe in the first of spring in Abib. So you had a Feast of Weeks that was actually 50 days. That's where you get the word Pentecost from. Penta in Greek meaning 50. So you had 50 days or 7 weeks following the Feast of Unleavened Bread, or the first Sabbath within the Feast of Unleavened Bread, and that gives us not the first day of Unleavened Bread. I'm sorry, right? First day of Unleavened Bread. Okay, following the first day of Unleavened Bread, you got 7 weeks or 49 days, and then the Feast of Weeks is that day following, and it's one of the 3 major feasts of the Most High, right? And we ought to read that in Deuteronomy chapter 16 and verse 16.
Devarim 16 and 16. 3 times a year shall all males appear before Yahuwah thy power in the place which he shall choose.
So that's the one place, right? The place which he shall choose, right? 3 times in a year, right? For these 3 different major feasts. Read.
In the Feast of Unleavened Bread.
The Feast of Unleavened Bread, which is the first feast. Read.
And in the Feast of Weeks.
The Feast of Weeks, or the one that they call Pentecost in here in Acts the 2nd chapter. And it's crazy because the Christians actually celebrate Pentecost while the Jewish people celebrate the Feast of Weeks. And it's the same feast. Crazy. Continue.
And in the Feast of Tabernacles.
And you got the Feast of Tabernacles. Go ahead.
And they shall not appear before Yahuwah empty.
Okay, so the men of Israel had to present themselves before the Most High in the city which he shall choose, which is Jerusalem, 3 times a year during the Feast of Unleavened Bread, the Feast of Weeks, and the Feast of Tabernacles. So let's go back to Acts the 2nd chapter. That's why they were all in one place. It was Pentecost, and they were all in one place on one accord, meaning in agreement, right? And they were all in the same place because according to the law, they were required to be there, right? Yes? Everybody follow? Okay, continue with verse 2.
Acts chapter 2 and verse 2.
I'm sorry. Jump down to verse 5.
Acts chapter 2 and verse 5. And there were dwelling at Jerusalem Jews, devout men, out of every nation under Shamayim.
Okay, that's good right there. So a lot of times you'll see where brothers will see this and they'll say devout men out of every nation under Shamayim, meaning that these was men from all different nations, right? These was all different nations. It wasn't just Jews. You had Jews and you had devout men out of every nation. But let's break it down with paying attention, real close attention to the punctuation. Read that verse again.
And there were dwelling at Jerusalem.
Okay, so these men were dwelling or lodged in Jerusalem because of the feast. Continue.
At Jerusalem, Jews, devout men.
So these Jews were devout men. Read.
Out of every nation under Shamayim.
So these Jews were devout men out of every nation under Shamayim. So these were all Jews or all Israelites who were all devout men, but they just so happened to come from every nation out of Shamayim, under Shamayim, all of these different nations, but they were all Israelites. And I'm going to show y'all that. So let's keep reading.
Verse 6. Now when this was noised abroad.
Okay, so this is the situation that when the tongues fell, right? And they were able to hear everybody in their own language. Continue.
The multitudes came together and were confounded.
Okay, they were confused. Continue.
Because that every man heard them speak in his own language. And they were all amazed and marveled, saying one to another, Behold, are not all these which speak Galilean?
Aren't all these men from Galilee? They should speak the tongue of the people here, right? Continue.
And how hear we every man in our own tongue?
And how we hear every man in our own tongue what?
Wherein we were born?
Wherein we were born. So these people were born in these different nations. However, they were all Israelites. Like I said, I'm going to go through and show you how there were Israelites in all of these different nations that they're about to list. Verse 9.
Verse 9. Parthians and Medes and Elamites and the dwellers in Mesopotamia and Judea and Cappadocia and in Pontus and in Asia.
Okay, now if you notice, Cappadocia, Asia, Pontus, all of these places are places where Paul actually went and sent epistles to different churches, right? Plus John sent epistles, plus Peter did. And I'm gonna go through and show you all that. Keep going.
Phrygia, Pamphylia, in Egypt.
In Egypt, go ahead.
And in parts of Libya about Cyrene.
Parts in Libya about Cyrene. So you had Egypt, which we know where Egypt is, in the northeast corner of the continent of Africa. And then you have Libya about Cyrene, which is right to the west of that. It's still north, right underneath the Mediterranean Sea, right? And then all of these different places, Phrygia, Pamphylia, these are in Pontus and Asia, being Asia Minor. These places are located in Turkey. Keep going.
And strangers of Rome.
And strangers of Rome. Now, when the Most High told you not, when He told us not to abhor the Edomites, right, or the Egyptians, right? Why do you remember? Do anybody remember why He said that? What was the reason?
Because you were strangers in their land.
So you were strangers in their land. So people would see this and say, strangers. So these strangers had to be Gentiles. But when you're in another person's land, you're a stranger to that land. So He said, abhor not an Egyptian, because you were once strangers in their land. So these strangers of Rome mean that these were not Romans. They were strangers in Rome, which means they did not come from Rome. They were Israelites who dwelled in Rome. Continue.
Jews and proselytes.
Does anybody know what a proselyte is? A convert. It's a convert. Okay, and I'm going to show you. I can show you that too. I might go into it if we, but I can show you where some converted, right? But continue.
Verse 11. Cretes and Arabians. We do hear them speak in our own languages.
Okay.
The wonderful works of the Most High.
So you had Cretes and Arabians. So we're going to go through and kind of break down all of these different areas where Israelites were, to show that all of these different areas that they're talking about, these were actually Israelites that came from these nations and not the other nations that were there. So let's go to Titus chapter 1 and verse 4. We're going to deal with, hold your finger at Acts 2, because we're going to hop back and forth from there for a few minutes. So hold your finger at Acts 2, and we're going to go to Titus chapter 1 and verse 4.
The book of Titus, the epistle of Paul to Titus, chapter 1 and verse 2. In hope of eternal life.
Verse 4.
Oh, you said verse 4. Verse 4. To Titus, my own son, after the common faith, grace, mercy, and peace from Yah.
Okay, so this is Paul's letter to Titus. Grace, mercy, and peace from the Most High. Continue.
From Yah the Father and Hamashiach our Savior. For this cause left I you in Crete.
Left I you where?
In Crete.
So he left Titus in Crete, right? He's sending this letter to Titus in Crete, right? Let's see what Titus's purpose was in Crete. Read.
That you should set in order the things that are wanting.
So that you should set in order the things that are wanting, the things that are needed for there in Crete. I want you to set them in order. Let's see what order Paul is talking about. Read.
And ordain elders in every city, as I appointed you.
As I appointed you. So ordain elders as I appointed you over this whole little situation, right? Jump down to verse 10.
Verse 10. For there are many unruly and vain talkers.
Okay, so this is why he needed Titus to to set in order the things that are warning, because there are many vain and unruly talkers, right? Continue.
And deceivers. Especially they of the circumcision.
Wait a minute. Who's of the circumcision?
Israel.
Israel, right? So these people, these vain and unruly talkers that it's talking about, are of the circumcision in Crete. That means that they were Israel, right? Because you have circumcision and uncircumcision. And we know that Israel was referred to throughout the scriptures as being those of the circumcision, correct? So this showing that there was these, that in Crete were these Israelites, right? Okay, let's go to Isaiah chapter 13 and verse 19. Thir 13 and 19.
Isaiah chapter 13 and 19. And Babylon.
And where?
And Babylon. The esteem of kingdoms.
Okay, and Babylon, verse 20.
It shall never be inhabited, neither shall it be dwelt in from generation to generation, neither shall the Arabian pitch tent there.
Okay, so that's good right there. So who dwelled in Babylon according to this scripture? The who? The Arabian, right? This were the land where the Arabians came from, correct? Yes? Okay. Now let's flip back to Acts 2 and verse 11 real quick.
Acts 2 and 11. Cretes and Arabians.
Okay, so we done already established that there was Israelites in Crete that Titus went to. Now, these Arabians, right, it shows that they dwell in Babylon, right? So if you was born in Babylon, just like we born here, we American citizens, right? So let's see if there was Israelites in Babylon. Let's grab the Josephus, book 11, chapter 5, section 2.
It's the Josephus.
The Josephus.
A history book.
The Antiquities of the Jews, book 11, chapter 5, and section 2.
Okay. And now we understand that the Israelites were captive in Babylon, right? And the events that took place in order for that captivity to end was that the Persians invaded Babylon. They smashed them out, and the king of the Persians allowed the Israelites to go free, correct? We're all aware of that. Okay, go ahead, read.
When Esdras had received this epistle, he was very joyful and began to worship Yah.
Okay, so the king at that time over Persia had given Esdras a letter letting them know that the Israelites can go back into Jerusalem, right? And then rebuild the temple and rededicate it right unto the Most High and take the vessels, all of the golden cups and all of the things that the Babylonians have stole back. So it says when Esdras got this letter or this epistle, it says that he was very joyful. Read.
And confessed that he had been the cause of the king's great favor to him, and that for the same reason he gave all the thanks to Yah. So he read the epistle at Babylon.
So he read the epistle where?
At Babylon to those Jews that were there.
To those Jews that were there. Continue.
But he kept the epistle himself and sent a copy of it to all those of his own nation.
Of his own nation, where?
That were in Media.
That were in Media. Now, flip back to Acts 2. We're going to hold that. Flip back to Acts 2 real quick.
Acts
verse
chapter
9.
2 and verse 9. Parthians and Medes.
And Medes. So you have people who were considered Medes. But it's showing right here that he sent the letter to those people of his own nation that were in Media, right? Continue.
And when these Jews had understood,
keep on.
And when these Jews had understood what piety the king had towards Yah,
what regard that the king had for the power of the Most High, continue.
And what kindness he had for Esdras, they were all greatly pleased. Nay, many of them took their effects with them.
So many of them gathered up all their belongings and did what?
And came to Babylon.
And did what?
And came to Babylon.
And did what?
As very desirous of going down to Jerusalem. But then the entire body of the people of Israel remained in that country.
Remain where?
in that country.
So these was Israelites in the land of the Arabians in Babylon, right? And the people remained there. Some people remained there. So when you go back to Acts 2 and it's talking about these people that came to Jerusalem, and these Arabians, it's talking about Israelites that were dwelling in the land of Babylon. That's what we can see according to Josephus right here, right? Okay, let's go to Isaiah chapter 11 and verse 11. No, we don't go back. It's Isaiah 11 and 11, and we're going to flip. Let's hold that and flip back to Acts 2 real quick. And let's start at verse 10.
Acts 2 and 10. Phrygia, Pamphylia in Egypt.
In Egypt.
And in parts of Libya about Cyrene.
And in parts of Libya about Cyrene, that northern Africa area. Jump back to verse 9.
Verse 9. Parthians and Medes and Elamites and the dwellers of Mesopotamia.
Dwellers in Mesopotamia. If anybody know where Mesopotamia is, right? That's between the Tigris and the Euphrates River, right? Read Isaiah 11 and verse 11.
Isaiah 11 and 11. And it shall come to pass in that day that the master shall set his hand again the second time to recover the remnant of his people.
The remnant of his people where?
Which shall be left from Assyria.
From Assyria.
And from Egypt.
And from Egypt.
And from Pathros.
Pathros.
And from Cush.
Cush.
And from Elam.
Elam.
And from Shinar.
Shinar is Babylon. Continue.
And from Hamath. And from the isles of the sea.
The isles of the sea being the islands that surrounding the Black Sea and the Mediterranean Sea. But it's tell you that he shall set his hand to gather his people a second time that are in all of these different areas. And we also just read in Acts 2 where his people in all of these different areas is showing the evidence that it was Israelites in all of these different areas. So these people that was in Jerusalem on one accord, according to the law, were Israelites, right? Yes? Okay, let's go to Revelation chapter 2 and verse 1. As like I said, matter of fact, hold Acts 2. We're going to go back to Acts 2 for a second, but grab Revelation chapter 2 and verse 1, because we done dealt with Medes, we done dealt with Elamites, we done dealt with, we know it was Israelites in Judea, we done dealt with Egypt, we done dealt with Libya about Cyrene, Rome, Jews, Cretes, Arabians. We done showed it's Israelites in all of these different areas. Now, when you deal with Phrygia, Pamphylia, and some of these other places, these were places that were in Turkey, like parts near the Black Sea, like the lower parts of Turkey, and then there was parts in the western part of Turkey. But let's read Revelation chapter 2 and verse 1.
Revelations chapter 2 and verse 1. Unto the Malachim of the congregation of Ephesus.
Okay,
right.
So there was a congregation in Ephesus, right? That John was, they call him John the Revelator, right? That he was writing these letters to, right? So we got Ephesus. Go to verse 8.
Verse 8. And unto the Malachim of the congregation in Smyrna.
You got Smyrna and Ephesus. Jump down to verse 12.
Verse 12. And to the Malachim of the congregation in Pergamos.
Pergamos. Verse 18.
Verse 18. And unto the Malachim of the congregation in Thyatira.
Thyatira, that's 4. Let's go to chapter 3 and verse 1.
Revelation chapter 3 and verse 1. And unto the Malachim of the congregation in Sardis. Right?
In Sardis, that's 5. Verse 7.
Verse 7. And unto the Malachim of the congregation in Philadelphia.
Philadelphia, that's not Pennsylvania. That's 6. Verse 14.
Verse 14. And unto the Malachim of the congregation in Laodicean.
Okay, so this is 7 different congregations, right? That John wrote letters or epistles to, right? All of these different congregations are located in Turkey, right? So that's showing that it was Israelites dwelling in Turkey. So all of these different different places in Turkey that's listed in Acts the 2nd chapter, showing that there was Israelites dwelling in Turkey, right? And we're going to see who some of these Israelites were. we're gonna get some understanding on who exactly they were. Let's go back to the Josephus, book 11, chapter 5, section 2, and we can we don't have to read it all the way through, but let's just jump down to the part where it says that the entire body of people of Israel remained in that country, being Babylon.
But then the entire body of the people of Israel remained in that country. Wherefore they are but 2 tribes in Asia and Europe.
There are what?
2 tribes in Asia and Europe.
Okay, so it's 12 tribes of Israel total, right? So it's 2 tribes in Asia and Europe. Keep going.
Subject to the Romans.
Subject to the Romans. So according to the book, to the complete New Testament, who were the tribes that were subject to the Romans in Asia and Europe? The 2 tribes. Judah and Benjamin, right? Let's real quick, hold your finger there. Let's go back to 2 Kings chapter 17 and verse 16. Verse 18. That was out of Josephus. This 2 Kings 17 to 18.
Kings 17 and 18. Therefore Yahuwah was very angry with Israel and removed them out of his sight. There was none left but the tribe of Judah only.
So when it say he was angry with Israel, it was not talking about the whole body of Israel. It's talking about the northern kingdom. So the southern kingdom, when it says Judah only, consisted of actually Judah, portions of Levi, and Benjamin, because there was Levi in both, them being the priests and having to cover the priestly duties and all in the sacrifices and such. So you had Levi in both, but you had Judah and Benjamin, was the southern kingdom, and the other 10 tribes were the northern kingdom. So going back to Josephus, read that part again. He said it was 2 tribes.
But there are 2 tribes in Asia and Europe, subject to the Romans.
Subject to the Romans. So during the time of the Mashiach, the Romans were in power. The 2 tribes that were subject to the Romans were Judah and Benjamin. The Mashiach himself came from the tribe of Judah, and we know that Apostle Paul was a Benjamite, right? Continue.
There are but 2 tribes in Asia and Europe subject to the Romans, while the 10 tribes
of the northern kingdom are where?
Are beyond Euphrates.
Are where?
Beyond Euphrates.
Beyond the Euphrates River, right? Not across, but beyond, meaning where it ends, right? And we can see this stuff on the map. Continue.
Till now.
Till now. So if you read further down in the Josephus, you'll see where Esdras actually rode on horseback and went to these people to try to get them to come back. And they was like, nah, we good right here. So the time of Esdras, you're talking about way back after the Babylonian captivity, during the Medo-Persian captivity or whatever, when they was in power, right? Okay, let's go to Isaiah chapter 42. Let's see what the prophets have to say concerning these so-called Gentiles. So it's clear. Is everybody clear on that? That in Acts, the 2nd chapter, that all these different nations under Shammai were Israelites that actually dwelled in these different nations. Right? Okay, 42 and verse 1.
Isaiah 42 and 1. Behold, my servant, whom I uphold, mine elect, in whom my soul delighteth. I have put my spirit upon him. He shall bring forth judgment to the Gentiles.
Okay, so who is this servant that the Most High put his spirit on?
Mashiach.
Mashiach? You sure? Say he gonna bring judgment to the Gentiles. Jump down to verse 4.
Verse 4. He shall not fail, nor be discouraged, till he have set judgment in the earth. And the isles shall wait for his law.
And the isles, the same isles of the sea, right? That we read in Isaiah 11 and 11 says that they shall wait for his law. So the only one that could put forth law that the Most High put his spirit on was the Mashiach himself, right? Okay, so that's coming from verse 4. Let's jump down to verse 6.
Isaiah 42 and verse 6.
Now we got to understand that it says in verse 1 that he shall bring judgment to the Gentiles, right? Let's see who these Gentiles that he's talking about is. Verse 6.
I, Yahuwah, have called thee in righteousness, and will hold thine hand, and will keep thee, and give you for a covenant of the people.
And give you what?
For a covenant of the people, for a light of the Gentiles.
Okay, so what? We made a covenant, right, with the Most High at Horeb, right, at the mountain, right? And it took a blood sacrifice, right? So in order for us to have a renewed covenant, what did it have to take? A blood sacrifice. And who was given for that blood sacrifice? The Mashiach, right? So when it says that I will give thee for a covenant of the people, and it says, and of a light to the Gentiles, right? Which means that he was going to be a light, or he was going to open up the eyes of these Gentiles from the darkness, right? Read verse 7.
Verse 7. To open the blind eyes.
To do what?
To open the blind eyes. To bring out the prisoners from the prison. And them that sit in darkness out of the prison house.
And them that sit in darkness out of the prison house. That's what it means by being a light to the Gentiles. Hold your finger there, because we're going to go back there, and let's go to Matthew, the 4th chapter. We're going to start at verse 12. Matthew 4 and 12.
Matthew 4 and 12. Now when Yahushua had heard that John was cast into prison, he departed into Galilee.
He departed into Galilee, the Mashiach, read.
And leaving Nazareth, he came and dwelt in Capernaum, which is upon the sea coast.
Which is upon the sea coast, like it just said. The isles wait for your law, read.
In the borders of Zebulun.
In the borders of where?
Zebulun.
Zebulun and
Naphtali.
And Zebulun and Naphtali being both part of the northern kingdom, right? Off the sea coast, right? Read.
That it might be fulfilled.
That what?
That it might be fulfilled. Which was spoken by Isaiah the prophet.
This was spoken by Isaiah the prophet, that we were just reading in 42. What might be fulfilled? Keep going.
Saying, the land of Zebulun and the land of Naphtali by the way of the sea, beyond Jordan, Galilee of the Gentiles.
Beyond Jordan, Galilee of the Gentiles. So if this was Zebulun and Naphtali, which were both lands of the northern kingdom of Israel, but it see how it referred to them here as Gentiles the same way it did in Isaiah 42. But we're going to get more clarity on the Isaiah 42. Read the next verse.
The people which sat in darkness saw great light.
Saw a great light. This is the servant of the Most High spoken of in Isaiah 42 as being a great light unto those that be in darkness, a light to the Gentiles. Read.
And to them which sat in the region and the shadow of death, light is sprung up.
Light is sprung up. So this is the fulfillment here of Isaiah 42 according to what is stated right here in Matthew 4. But let's go back to Isaiah 42 and read verse 7 again, because I want to make clear. Read verse 6 and 7.
Isaiah 42 and verse 6. I, Yahuwah, have called you in righteousness, and will hold your hand, and will keep you, and give you for a covenant of the people.
Will give you for a covenant of the people. Read.
For a light of the Gentiles.
A light of the Gentiles. For the Mashiach, he was going to be the covenant and that light of the Gentiles. We just read that in Matthew 4. Read.
To open the blind eyes. To bring out the prisoners from the prison. And them that sit in darkness out of the prison house.
Them that sit in darkness out of the prison house. Jump down to verse 22.
Verse 22. But this is a people robbed and spoiled.
Now, wow. Ain't this the scripture we always go to say, ain't we the main ones in the prison system? Ain't this the scripture we always go to? Are we filling up the prisons? This is a people robbed and spoiled and sat in prison houses, right? Okay, so when we just go back to the beginning of Isaiah, he told you that this servant was going to be a light to the Gentiles. And these Gentiles was in the prison houses. So if this a people robbed and spoiled and in prison houses, and this pertains to Israel, then these Gentiles have to be Israel by default. And we're going to see that even further. Keep reading verse 22.
Verse 22. But this is a people robbed and spoiled, They are all of them snared in holes. They are hid in prison houses. They are for prey, and none delivereth, for a spoil, and none saith restore.
Therefore, spoil, and none saith restore. Let's go back up to verse 10.
Isaiah 42.
In fact, no, we good. Verse 16.
Isaiah 42 and 16. And I will bring the blind by way that they knew not. I will lead them in paths that they have not known. I will make darkness light before them, and crooked things straight. These things will I do unto them, and not forsake them.
Okay, so they like, these got to be Gentiles. They say that these ways that they didn't know, they had to be Gentiles. They didn't know the Most High. Read verse 17.
Verse 17. They shall be turned back.
They shall be what?
They shall be turned back.
Okay, so how could they be turned back if they never knew the Most High? That means that they had to have known the Most High and turned away in order to be turned back. And we know what we just read in 2 Kings, the 17th chapter, that the Most High was very angry with Israel and removed them because they was disobedient, right? Keep reading.
They shall be turned back. They shall be greatly ashamed. They trust in graven images that say to the molten images, ye are our gods. Hear, ye deaf.
That's good. Keep your finger in Isaiah 42. Let's go to Jeremiah chapter 3 and verse 8.
Jeremiah chapter 3 and verse 8. And I saw, when for all the cause whereby backsliding Israel committed adultery, I had put her away and given her a bill of divorce. Yet her treacherous sister Judah feared not.
Okay, so it's showing you right here that Israel had backslid, talking about the northern kingdom. It's showing a separation between the northern and the southern kingdom. So when we read in Isaiah 42 in verse 17, it says they shall be turned back, but they're in darkness and they were going to come into the light, but they shall be turned back. Let's go to jump down to verse 14 in Jeremiah chapter 3.
Jeremiah 3 and 14. Turn, O backsliding children, saith Yahuwah, for I am married unto you. Okay,
so he's talking about Israel, like he said, turn. So this whole be turned back in verse 17 is talking specifically to the northern kingdom, because he said they was adulterous in Jeremiah chapter 3, right? Chapter 3 and 8. This northern kingdom was adulterous, and it said that Judah followed suit. But it's showing, and we're going to show that even further. Let's go back to Isaiah 42 and verse 22.
Isaiah 42 and verse 22. But this is a people robbed and spoiled. They are all of them snared in holes. They are hid in prison houses. They are for prey, and none delivereth. For a spoil, and none saith restore.
Jump down to 24.
Verse 24. Who gave Jacob for a spoil?
Okay, so these people that's robbed and spoiled, right? It says who gave Jacob. So it's showing you that these Gentiles that's mentioned in verse 1, now right now it's calling them Jacob, right? So who gave Jacob for a spoil? Read.
Who gave Jacob for a spoil, and Israel to the robbers? Did not Yahuwah, he against whom we have sinned?
So wasn't it the Most High who we sinned against? Why he said, turn, O backsliding Israel? Wasn't it the Most High that gave Jacob for a spoil? Wasn't it the Most High that gave Israel into the hands of the enemy? Keep going.
For they would not walk in his ways, neither were they obedient unto his law. Therefore he hath poured upon him the fury of his anger, and the strength of the battle, and it hath set him on fire round about. Yet he knew not, and it burned him, yet he laid it not to heart.
43 and 1.
Isaiah 43 and 1. But now, thus saith Yahuwah, that created thee, O Jacob, and he that formed thee, O Israel. Fear not, for I have redeemed you. I have called you by thy name. Thou art mine.
Thou art mine. So it said that the Most High redeemed him. How did he redeem him? Let's go to Romans 11 and 8. How did the Most High redeem Israel.
Romans chapter 11 and verse 8. According as it is written.
As it is written. Where is it written? In the prophets, what we just read, right? Go ahead.
The Most High have given them the spirit of slumber.
The Most High had given them the spirit of slumber.
Eyes that should not see. And ears that should not hear. Unto this day.
Unto when?
This day.
Unto this day, because then he sent redemption through the Mashiach. And we're going to see that. That the Mashiach came for who? Who did he say he came from?
The lost sheep of the house of Israel.
The lost sheep of the house of who?
Israel.
Not the house of Judah.
Nope.
The lost sheep of the house of who?
Israel.
Israel. Not talking about the entire body of Israel, you have to understand. At the point that the Mashiach came, the southern kingdom was still intact. Judah, Levi, and Benjamin was still there. Still knew who they were, was still doing everything according to the law. So if the Mashiach came for the lost sheep of the house of Israel, he had to come for who? The northern kingdom, right or wrong. And we're going to see it even further. There's more proof. So all of these different places that was visited, that these Gentiles was visited in these different epistles and letters of Paul, right? He visited all these different places. Galatia, Cappadocia, Ephesus. He visited all these places, sent letters, right? Okay, let's go to Psalms 50 and verse 5. You can go to no, we good on Romans. We good. Psalms 50 and verse 5.
Psalms chapter 50 and verse 5. Gather my saints together unto me.
Gather who?
My saints together unto me.
Who is the saints? Read.
Those that have made a covenant with me by sacrifice.
Those who have made the covenant with me by sacrifice are my saints, correct? Isn't that what it just said? Okay, well let's see something. Let's go to the book of Romans, chapter 1 and verse 7. We're going to walk through these epistles real quick and easy, and prove a point, prove a fact. Chapter 1 and verse 7.
Romans chapter 1 and verse 7. To all that be in Rome, beloved of the Most High, called to be saints.
Called to be what?
Saints.
Who are the saints?
Those that make a sacrifice.
That made a covenant by sacrifice, right? Who made that covenant by sacrifice? Israel. So this letter to the Romans was to all those that be in Rome, beloved of the Most High, called to be saints, right? Let's go to 1 Corinthians chapter 1. Now this was a letter of Paul to the Romans, right? So now we're going to read the letter of Paul to the Corinthians, chapter 1 and verse 2.
1 Corinthians chapter 1, verse 2. Unto the congregation of the Most High, which is in Corinth.
That's in Corinth,
To them that are sanctified in Hamashiach.
So those who were sanctified by Hamashiach.
Called to be saints.
Called to be saints to the Most High. We understand that these saints was Israel, and they were sanctified through the death of the Mashiach. These lost sheep of the house of Israel. Let's go to 2 Corinthians chapter 1 and verse 1.
Second Corinthians chapter 1 and verse 2. Grace be to you. Second Corinthians chapter 1 and verse 1. Shaul, an apostle of Yahushua HaMashiach, by the will of the Most High, and Timothy, our brother, unto the congregation of the Most High, which is at Corinth. With all the saints.
With all the saints. So we understand who these saints were, according to Psalms 50 and verse 5. And we understand that all of these letters of Paul, grab Galatians 1 and 3, all these letters that Paul sent out to these so-called Gentile congregations were those who were called to be saints. Chapter 1 and verse 3. 3 and 4. Galatians 1.
Galatians chapter 1 and 1.
Verse 2.
Verse 2. And all the brethren which are with me unto the congregation of Galatia.
So the brethren which are with, let's see if these brethren is just, if it's a spiritual brethren or what. Keep going.
Grace be to you and peace from the Most High, the Father, and from our Master Yahushua HaMashiach, who gave himself for our sins.
Who gave himself, who did the Mashiach come for? The lost sheep of the house of Israel, right? Who gave himself for our sins, right? So who is he? Who did he give himself for? Israel, right? Continue.
That he might deliver us.
That he what?
That he might deliver us from this present evil world, according to the will of the Most High, our Father.
So according to the will of the Most High, that he might deliver Israel, right? Was that not the whole point, that the Mashiach came to reconcile Israel back unto the Father? So this us that he's talking about in Galatians, so these brethren that was in Galatia had to be Israelites. Ephesians 1 and 1. Matter of fact, we don't even got to go there. They all say the same thing. I don't want to keep beating the dead horse. Y'all get the picture, right? They all say the same thing. Each and every epistle that Paul said the same thing. To the saints that's dwelling in Ephesus, to the saints dwelling in Corinth, Galatia, they all say the same thing, which points to the same fact that he's sending it to assemblies of Israelites that were dwelling in these places. Now we ought to see Peter. Let's go to Peter chapter 1 and verse 1.
No, it's a letter to America.
No letter to America.
You sure Philadelphia wasn't talking about Pennsylvania?
No, not DC. Not, no.
Yeah.
No letter. We didn't get one. I didn't get one.
First Peter chapter 1 and verse 1.
Chapter 1 and verse 1. Go ahead.
Kepha, an apostle of Yahushua HaMashiach, to the strangers.
To the what?
To the strangers.
So we done already determined when you dwell in a strange land, you are considered what?
Strangers.
A stranger, right? To the strangers that what?
Scattered throughout Pontus.
Scattered. These strangers scattered. Okay, now is these the other nations? Would these be the other nations that were scattered?
No.
These would be Israelites that was scattered, right? Scattered where?
Pontus.
Okay.
Galatia. Cappadocia. Asia. And Bithynia.
Aren't all these the same places that Paul visited? Aren't they? Okay, let's go to Acts chapter. Hold your finger there. Let's go to Acts chapter 15 and start at verse 6. Acts 15 and verse 6.
Acts chapter 15 and verse 6. And the apostles and elders came together for to consider of this matter.
Okay, so the apostles and elders came together to consider this matter. They took counsel, right? Go ahead.
And when there had been much disputing, Kepha rose up.
So Peter rose up and said what?
And said unto them, Men and brethren, ye know how that a good while ago the Most High made choice among us that the Gentiles,
that the who?
That the Gentiles by my mouth should hear the word of the good news and believe.
That these Gentiles by the mouth of Peter was going to hear the words of the Mashiach, of the good news, by Peter's mouth, right? So it say Gentiles. So these strangers in 1 Peter 1 and 1 have to be Gentiles, right? Yes? No? Let's see. Let's read verse 2.
Acts chapter 15.
No. Peter. I'm sorry. Let's flip back to 1 Peter. I'm sorry. Start at verse 1 again. My bad. 1 Peter 1 and 1.
1 Peter 1 and 1. Kepha, an apostle of Yahushua HaMashiach, to the strangers scattered throughout Pontus, Galatia, Cappadocia, Asia, and Bithynia.
Okay, so this letter, this first epistle of Peter was to these strangers. Let's see who these strangers were. Read.
Elect.
Who?
Elect.
What?
Elect.
Who are the elect of the Most High?
Israel.
Read.
According to the foreknowledge.
According to the what?
The foreknowledge.
Which means you had knowledge before of the Most High. Read.
Of the Most High the Father, through sanctification of the Spirit, unto obedience and sprinkling of the blood of Yahushua HaMashiach.
So that's how we were sanctified, through the sprinkling of the blood of the Mashiach. Read.
Grace unto you.
The grace be unto you. Who is grace granted was to us, so we could get it right? Read.
And peace be multiplied. Blessed be the Most High and the Father of our Master Yahushua HaMashiach, which according to his abundant mercy have begotten us. Again.
Have begotten who?
Begotten us.
Begotten us. Peter was an Israelite, right? So begotten us, not the first time, but begotten us again. Which means he had, who was the first, who didn't say there was the begotten other than the Mashiach or the Most High, but Israel, right? Continue.
Begotten us again into a lively hope by the resurrection of Yahushua HaMashiach from the dead, to an inheritance.
To what?
An inheritance.
Who was the receiver of the inheritance of the Most High? Read.
Incorruptible and undefiled, and that fadeth not away, reserved in Shamaim for you.
For you. Read.
Who are kept by the powers of the Most High through faith unto salvation, ready to be revealed in the last time.
That salvation that's ready to be revealed in the last time. So these strangers that Peter had wrote this epistle to, it's clear that they were of the seed of Israel. Clear as day. Elect. Those who are going to receive the inheritance. Those who were redeemed by the blood of the Messiah, right? Let's go to James 1 and 1. Let's see who James was talking to.
So James 1 and 1. James, a servant of the Most High and of Yahushua HaMashiach, to the 12 tribes.
To who?
To the 12 tribes which are scattered in America. Which are scattered abroad. Greetings.
So which are scattered abroad, greetings. This is a letter to the 12 tribes. Now, it wasn't no DHL. It wasn't no American. American Express? What they call it? Federal Express. It wasn't no Federal Express. It wasn't no UPS. Now, if the 10 tribes had came over to the Americas, how was they gonna get this letter?
He was just going to talk to him.
He was gonna put it in the bottle and to throw the cork and just throw. You follow what I'm saying? They had to be in a area where they could be reached if he writing a letter to them. If Peter is writing a letter to these people that was scattered right in that general vicinity, they had to be reachable, right or wrong? Let's go back to 1 Peter chapter 2. I ain't mean to go there. It wasn't. Chapter 2 and verse 5. Bless you, bro. God bless you.
1 Peter chapter 2 and verse 5. Ye also, as lively stones.
Okay, so we understand in chapter 1 and verse 1, we saw, bless you, brother, who Peter was writing this epistle to, right? To the strangers that was scattered abroad, right? And we understand that these strangers was the elect, those who was going to receive the inheritance, right? That they was actually the children of Israel, correct? Yes? Okay, verse 5.
Ye also, as lively stones, are built up a spiritual house and a Kodesh priesthood.
A what?
A Kodesh priesthood.
So how could this be the other nations if they was a Kodesh priesthood? Read.
to offer up spiritual sacrifices acceptable to the Most High by Yahushua HaMashiach.
Keep going.
Wherefore also it is contained in the scriptures.
In the scriptures.
Behold, I lay in Zion a chief cornerstone, elect, precious, and he that believeth on him shall not be confounded.
That chief cornerstone, and who believe on him shall not be confounded, being the Mashiach, right? Read.
Unto you, therefore, which believe, he is precious. But unto them which be disobedient, the stone which the builders disallowed.
The stone which the builders disallowed, meaning how they cut him off and they killed him, right? Keep going.
The same is made the head of the corner.
The same is made the head of the corner where you can build on. Read.
And a stone of stumbling. And a rock of offense. Even to them which stumble at the word, being disobedient.
Being disobedient, that's how you stumble at the word. Continue.
Whereunto also they were appointed.
Verse 9.
But you are a chosen generation.
Are a chosen. Who did the Most High choose? Okay, so if this was two of the strangers being the other nations, it couldn't be because he didn't choose them. Read.
A royal priesthood.
Who is the royal priesthood? Continue.
A Kodesh nation, a peculiar people, that ye should show forth the praise of him who have called you out of darkness into this marvelous light.
So what darkness was they dealing with? Who gave them the spirit of slumber? Eyes that they should not see, ears that they should not hear, right? What we read in Romans, right? It's the Most High gave them, it said it gave them for a spoil in Isaiah 42. But it says that they are a Kadesh priesthood, a chosen generation, that were called out of the darkness into the marvelous light, right? Let's grab Hosea chapter 1. Hold your finger there. Yeah, hold your finger there. And we're going to grab Hosea chapter 1. That was first one. Matter of fact, read verse 10. I'm sorry. I thought we read that. Read verse 10.
Verse 10.
This is, I'm sorry, hold on. This is 1 Peter chapter 2 and verse 10.
1 Peter chapter 2 and verse 10. Which in times past.
Go ahead.
Which in times past.
Okay, these people who were called out of darkness into the marvelous light in times past, what?
Were not a people, but are now the people of the Most High, which had not obtained mercy, but now have obtained mercy.
So they were not a people, but now are the people of the Most High, which did not have mercy, but now have obtained mercy. Let's go to Hosea chapter 1 and verse 6. You're about to see something. These was not a people. So let's see when they became not a people.
Hosea chapter 1 and verse 6. And she conceived again.
Okay, now we know the story. We are familiar with the story of Hosea, right? The Most High told him to go take a wife of whoredoms, right? And his wife conceived a child. Read that again, I'm sorry.
Hosea chapter 1 verse 6. And she conceived again and bare a daughter. And the Most High said unto him, call her name Lo-Ruhamah, for I will no more have mercy upon the house of Israel.
Wait, what?
For I will no more have mercy upon the house of Israel.
Isn't that what Peter just said? Go ahead.
But I will utterly take them away. But I will have mercy upon the house of Judah, and will save them by Yahuwah their power, and will not save them by bow, nor by sword, nor by battles, by horse, nor by horsemen.
First, how would he save them if he wasn't going to save them by battles and swords and horsemen? Because that's what all the children of Israel thought was going to happen, right? They thought it was about to go down. It was going to be a war. Chitty, chitty, bang, bang. They thought, it, that's how they was going to be, but that's not how it happened. The death of the Mashiach is how he redeemed them, right? Verse 8.
Now, when she had weaned Lo-Ruhamah, she conceived and bare a son. Then said the Most High, call his name Lo-Ammi. Lo-Ammi. For ye are not my people.
For what?
For ye are not my people, and I will not be your power.
Read 1 Peter 2 and 10 again.
Which in times past were not a people, but are now the people of Yah.
So this is when they was cut off. This was the similitude of what happened to Israel through what happened with Hosea, right? When he took a wife for whoredoms, and they had a daughter, and the daughter didn't receive mercy. Then they had a son, and name him Lo Ami, which means not a people in Hebrew, because they was not his people no more. Back to Hosea. Keep going.
Verse 9. Then said the Most High, call his name Lo Ami, for ye are not my people, and I will not be your power. Yet the number of the children of Israel shall be as the sand of the sea, which cannot be measured nor numbered. And it shall come to pass that in the place where it was said unto them, ye are not my people, there it shall be said unto them.
There it shall be said unto them what?
You are the sons of the living power.
Ain't that what Peter just said? Keep going.
Then shall the children of Judah and the children of Israel be gathered together.
Read it again.
Then shall the children of Judah and the children of Israel be gathered together.
So in that day, the children of Israel and the children of Judah, which were once separated, shall be gathered together. Read it again. Keep going.
And appoint themselves one head.
And shall appoint themselves one head. Who is that one head? Read.
And they shall come up out of the land. For great shall be the day of Jezreel.
Okay, we good right there. We understand that the children of Israel and the house of Judah was going to be again one people. Let's let's go to Romans chapter 9 and verse 24.
Romans chapter 9 and 24. Even us, whom he have called, not of the Jews only, but also of the Gentiles.
But also of the Gentiles. So not of the Jews or not of the house of Judah only, but also of the Gentiles, the northern kingdom, which have been dispersed and scattered, right? Continue.
As he said also in Hosea.
As he said it also where?
In Hosea.
That we just read, where the Most High told Hosea what the name is children and why. Read.
I will call them my people, which were not my people, and her beloved, which was not beloved. And it shall come to pass that in the place where it was said unto them, ye are not my people, there shall they be called the children of the living power.
Okay, there shall be called the children of the living power. The same thing we just read in Hosea, right? Let's flip over to Romans 11 and 25.
Romans 11 and 25. But I would not, brethren, that you should be ignorant of this mystery, lest you should be wise in your own conceits, that blindness in part has happened to Israel.
That blindness how?
In part has happened to Israel.
That blindness in part has happened to Israel. Read.
Until the fullness of the Gentiles be come in. And so all Israel shall be saved. As it is written, there shall come out of Zion the deliverer, and shall turn away ungodliness from Jacob.
And they should turn away ungodliness from Jacob. Read.
For this is my covenant unto them, when I shall take away their sins.
When I shall take away their sins or their transgressions, which we understand that the Mashiach, he came. He was that sacrifice that took away the sins and the transgressions. He came for the lost sheep of the house of Israel, right? It said that blindness has happened in part unto Israel, right? In part, not the entire nation of Israel, but in part. Let's go to Ezekiel chapter 37 and verse 21.
Ezekiel 37 and verse 21. And say unto them, thus saith Yahuwah power, Behold, I will take the children of Israel from among the heathen.
I will take them from where?
Among the heathen.
From among who?
The heathen. Whither they be gone.
Whether they be what?
Whither they be gone.
Well, they were scattered among all these different nations of heathens, right? Read.
And I will gather them on every side and bring them into their own land.
And do what?
And I will make them one nation.
And I will do what?
Make them one nation.
Isn't that what we just read in Hosea? Continue.
And I will make them one nation in the land upon the mountains of Israel. And one king shall be king to them all.
One king, the Mashiach, shall be king to them all. Read.
And they shall be no more two nations.
And they shall be no more split into two kingdoms, right? When we can read that we can read that in what was that? I lost my place. Give me a second, bro. In 1 Kings chapter 11. In 1 Kings chapter 11, we can see where the kingdom was split because Solomon was dealing with wickedness. So read verse 22 again.
Verse 22. And I will make them one nation in the land upon the mountains of Israel, and one king shall be king to them all, and they shall be no more two nations.
And they shall be no more two nations. There no more separation in the kingdom, right? No more northern kingdom and southern kingdom. There shall be one nation and one king over them all. Read.
Neither shall they be divided into two kingdoms anymore at all.
Now that's good right there. Neither shall they be divided into two kingdoms anymore at all, but they shall be all one again, right? Right? And it says he's going to take them from among the heathen, letting you know that they were scattered among the heathen. So the whole thing about... All right, we ain't going to go there. Let's go to Ephesians chapter 2. That's about it. Ephesians chapter 2 and verse 11.
Ephesians chapter 2 verse 11. Wherefore remember that ye being in times past.
Being in times past what?
Gentiles.
Oh my goodness. Being in times past Gentiles how?
In the flesh. Who are called uncircumcision by that which is called the circumcision in the flesh, made by hands. That at that time ye were without Hamashiach.
Okay, that at the time that you was called Gentiles according to the flesh, you was without the Mashiach. You had not been redeemed by his death yet. Read.
Being aliens from the commonwealth of Israel.
Being aliens from the commonwealth of Israel. Read.
And strangers from the covenants of the promise.
Come on, man. Read.
Having no hope and without the Most High in the world. But now in Hamashiach, ye who sometimes were far off are made nigh by the blood of Hamashiach.
So though you were far off, because that was before the Mashiach came, now you are made near by the blood of the Mashiach, who was shed for the lost sheep of the house of Israel. Read.
For he is our shalom, who have made both one.
And that what we just read in Ezekiel 37? He have made no more two kingdoms, no more two nations, but now one. Have made both one. Read.
And have broken down the middle wall of partition between us.
And broken down that middle wall of partition between us. There's no more separation. Read.
Having abolished in his flesh the enmity, even the law of commandments contained in ordinance, for to make in himself of twain one new man.
So this one new man of twain, this one new man being the kingdom of Israel, now being back together, that is no more two, but now it's one. Read.
So making shalom. And that he might reconcile.
That he might do what?
Reconcile. Both unto the Most High.
Both. That he might reconcile both kingdoms, the northern and the southern. Both kingdoms, Israel and Judah, back unto the Most High. Read.
In one body by the stake, having slain the enmity thereby.
Having slain the enmity thereby. Read.
And came and preached shalom to you which were afar off, and to them that were nigh.
So you who were afar off, being the nation of Israel that was scattered, right? And then to them that were near, being the tribe of Judah that was still intact. Read.
For through him we both have access by one Spirit unto the Father. Now, therefore, ye are no more strangers.
You are no more strangers. So when Peter wrote this letter to the strangers that was scattered, he called them strangers that was scattered. But now the death of the Mashiach have reconciled us both back unto the Father. We're one body, one nation. This is all one nation of Israel. So now in verse 19, now therefore you are no more strangers. Read.
And foreigners, but fellow citizens with the saints.
And who are the saints? Read.
And of all the household of the Most High, and are built upon the foundation of the apostles and the prophets, Yahushua HaMashiach himself being the chief cornerstone, in whom all the building fitly framed together groweth unto an holy temple in the Master, in whom ye are also builded together for an habitation of the Most High through the Spirit.
Through the Spirit. All right, is that pretty clear? Yeah?
Crystal.
Anybody got questions? No questions? No.
So I misunderstood that part.
That portion. Well, what happened was the northern kingdom before the Mashiach came had been scattered, right? Way back during the Assyrian captivity, the northern kingdom was put off. They were scattered. He said they removed them out of their sight, right? So they had been scattered into all these different nations. What we see in Acts 2 was all these different nations where these people were born. There were actually Israelites there. And these Israelites came to Jerusalem for the Feast of Weeks, right? And according to what we just read in Ephesians, it said that these people were considered strangers before the death of the Mashiach, right? What's that? Okay, grab that real quick. So what we got to understand is that when the Mashiach came, he said he came for who?
Lost sheep.
Okay, so he can. Okay, but we understand that he came for the lost sheep. Okay.
It's Matthew 15 and 24. I read verse 23. But he answered her not a word, and his disciples came and besought him, saying, Send her away, for she cry after us. But he answered and said, I am not sent, but unto the lost sheep of the house of Israel.
Okay, so we understand that at this time, the southern kingdom, Judah, Levi, Benjamin, was still intact. The northern kingdom had been dispersed, right? So if he would, and so that would he would have considered them to be lost. Well, and it says in Isaiah 42 that he was going to be a light unto these people. It said it called them Gentiles and it called them strangers, right? So this is specifically talking about the northern kingdom who was removed out of the sight. And then when we read Isaiah 11 and 11, it told us that he was going to go and retrieve the house of Israel, those who were scattered, right? Right? Okay. So it's talking about the northern kingdom in particular. But now it's to the point where we all scattered. Go ahead, sister. Good. Okay.
It's Matthew 10 and verse 5. This is when he was talking to the 12 disciples. It says, These 12 Hamashiach sent forth and commanded them, saying, Go not into the way of the Gentiles, and enter into any city of the Samaritans, enter you not, but go rather to the lost sheep of the house of Israel. And as you go, preach, saying, the kingdom of Shamayim is at hand.
Okay, so the lost sheep, I mean, we understand that it was not just Gentiles, those of another nation, but there was Gentiles that were Israel that were dwelling in these other nations as well. That's why you hear them both mentioned in this particular passage, Gentiles and lost sheep. You know what I'm saying?
The Messiah himself. His ministry was basically throughout history, right? Even
Right. Right. The apostles did, though.
Right. Okay, now, what's the conflict that the Messiah, the disciples with Paul?
With Paul? Because Paul didn't walk with them. You know what I mean? Paul kind of came, that's this from my understanding, Paul kind of came about and was like, yo, I learned, he had his own personal experience with the Most High and the Mashiach. When the disciples or the apostles, the 12, had actually walked with him. You know what I'm saying? So they like, where did this dude come from? You know? And that's why he like Peter, like, yo, we already know that the Most High chose me. You know what I'm saying? That's why Peter and Paul in particular was constantly like butting heads. And Peter like, yo, you read what Paul write, he gonna confuse you. Because, if you don't know the scriptures, Paul's letters will confuse you. You know what I'm saying? They was kind of, and it said that Paul went and he confronted Peter face to face. You know what I'm saying? They was constantly beefing. From my understanding, it would have been because Peter didn't walk with them, so he kind of came out of nowhere. And it was like, yo, who is this dude?
Plus the previous stuff that he used to do before learning of a Mashiach, because he was directly persecuting our people. Like killing, slaying, everything. That's another reason.
That's it? No more questions?
Good. As in depth as that was, nothing.
That's the reason. Cool. Every aspect.
Absolutely.
Okay, well.
No American questions?
45.
Nobody else. Okay. Oh. Okay, well, I guess that's it.
I got a question though. So, is Sumerian is that Philistine the same thing? Is like what is Sumerian be considered a Philistine?
I don't think they the same, but the Sumerian. Okay, let's go grab 2 Kings 17 real quick. 2 Kings 17. We read 17 and 18, right, where the Most High removed Israel out of his sight, right? Let's start reading from. Let's start reading from verse 23.
The book of 2 Kings, chapter 17 and verse 23. Until Yah removed Israel out of his sight, as he had said by all his servants, the prophets, so was Israel carried away out of their own land to Assyria unto this day.
Okay, so we understand that the Israelites have been carried away captive, right?
Right.
Keep going.
And the king of Assyria brought men from Babylon.
And the king of Assyria did what?
Brought men from Babylon, and from Kutah, and from Avah, and from Hamath, and from Sepharvaim, and placed them in the cities of Samaria instead of the children of Israel.
So the king of Assyria brought all of these people that were from basically the places in what would be considered like modern day Africa, right? And he placed them in the cities of Samaria instead of the children of Israel. Keep going.
And they possessed Samaria and dwelt in the cities thereof. And it was so at the beginning of their dwelling there that they feared not Yahuwah. Therefore Yahuwah sent lions among them which slew some of them.
So he put these different people from these other nations in the land where the Israelites were supposed to be, and they didn't fear the Most High. They was doing whatever, and the Most High sent lions, and they was destroying them. Keep going.
Wherefore they spake to the king of Assyria, saying, the nations which you have removed and placed in the cities of Samaria, know not the manner of power of the land? Therefore he hath sent lions among them, and behold, they slay them, because they know not the manner of Yah and of the land. Then the king of Assyria commanded, saying, carry there one of the priests whom you brought from thence, and let them go and dwell there, and let him teach them the manner of the Most High of the land.
So read that again.
Then the king of Assyria commanded, saying, carry there one of the priests who you brought from thence, and let them go and dwell there, and let him teach them the manner of the Most High of the land. Okay, so he told them, send one of the Levitical priests back among these people, because they didn't know how to reverence the Most High in his land. So he started sending, lions to devour them. So they sent the priests back to and let's read verse 28. Verse 28. Then one of the priests whom they had carried away from Samaria came and dwelt in Bethel, and taught them how they should fear Yahuwah. So he taught these people of those other nations how they were supposed to fear and reverence the Most High in his land, right? Let's go to John. Huh? Right, John chapter 4. This is what, that's why he told them not to deal with the Samaritans. What he just read, right? John chapter 4. It started John chapter 4, and start at verse 6. Yehukanan chapter 4 and verse 6. Now Jacob's well was there. Yahushua therefore, being weary with his journey, sat thus on the well, and it was about the 6th hour. There come a woman of Samaria to draw water. So there was a woman of Samaria came to draw water. Read. Hamashiach said unto her, give me to drink. For his disciples were gone away unto the city to buy meat. Then said the woman of Samaria unto him, how was this that you, being a Jew, ask drink of me, which am a woman of Samaria? For the Jews have no dealings with the Samaritans. So she already knew, y'all don't even deal with us. Keep going. Hamashiach answered and said unto her, if you knew the gift of Yah, and who it was that said to you, give me to drink, you would have asked of him, and he would given you living water. The woman said unto him, sir, you have nothing to draw with, and the well is deep. From whence then have you that living water? Are you greater than our father Jacob? Hold on. Absolutely. Hold on a second. What she mean, are you greater than our father Jacob? You know what I mean? She just said, you being a Jew, don't deal with us being a... Are you greater than our father Jacob? But you got to understand, these people thought that they was, they was dealing with the people because they had been taught by the priest to, you know what I mean? So she's saying Jacob our father, but you a Jew and you don't, it's a contradiction. You know what I'm saying? Or it was a whole bunch of different nations that we just read in 2 Kings that have been inhabited in Samaria all that time. That's why he told them don't deal with them, because they ain't our people.
Like say, don't go to the Gentiles, any city in Samaria.
Right. Right. I got an announcement afterwards, after you shut this drink.
Shalom.
Just a quick announcement. Shalom.
Shalom.